All right, let's dive right in. Have you ever just sat and wondered what really separates a decent idea from a truly world-changing one? Is it just some random lightning strike of inspiration? Or could it be something we can actually understand and maybe even, build? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a framework that demystifies genius and gives us a map for breakthrough creativity.
I mean, this is a big question, isn't it? We all have ideas, but some ideas just seem to bend the course of history itself. They feel totally unpredictable, almost magical. But according to cognitive scientist Margaret Bowden, there's actually a structure to all this seeming chaos. There's a way to understand how these incredible leaps forward actually happen. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's start with a really clear definition. Bowden tells us that creativity isn't just about something being new. Nope. It's got three key ingredients. It has to be new, it has to be surprising, and it has to be valuable. Think about it. Whether it's a scientific theory, a piece of music, whatever, it has to hit all three of those marks to be considered truly creative. Okay, so here's where Bowden makes a really important distinction. Not all new ideas are the same. She actually splits creativity into two distinct flavors. And this is going to help us zero in on the kind of breakthroughs that really do change the world.
So first up is something called P-creativity, and the P stands for psychological. Just imagine a little kid who's never even heard of Shakespeare describing sleep as knitting up the raveled sleeve of a messy day. To that child, that is a brilliant, original, totally surprising thought. It's a massive personal breakthrough for them. And right here is the key difference. P-creativity is an idea that's new to you. Each creativity, or historical creativity, is an idea that's new to all of human history. So the child poet, that's a moment of peak creativity. Shakespeare, writing that line for the very first time, that's H creativity. And for the rest of our time here, we're going to be focusing on H creativity, the stuff that sparks revolutions.
So how do these historically new, world-changing ideas even happen? Well, Bowden gives us a map. She argues that H creativity happens in three main ways, and each one creates its own unique kind of surprise. These are the three roads to genius. As Bowden herself says it, the path to creativity isn't some single, straight highway. It's more like a network of different roads. And if we can understand these roads, we can start to understand how those impossible ideas actually come to life. So let's take a look at the first one. The first road is combinational creativity. This is all about making brand new connections, forging these surprising links between ideas that we're already familiar with. And it's not just, mashing stuff together. It's about finding a deep structural link that nobody had ever seen before. The classic example is comparing an atom to a tiny solar system. It took two totally familiar concepts and combined them to create this incredibly powerful new way of seeing the world.
Now, the second road is exploratory creativity. I want you to imagine every field, whether it's chess or painting or physics, as a kind of conceptual map that has a set of established rules. Exploratory creativity is when you venture into the uncharted corners of that map. You're not changing the rules of the game. You're just discovering a brilliant, unforeseen move that was actually possible the whole time. You're finding the hidden potential that was already there.
And then we have the third road. This is the most profound one of all, transformational creativity. This is where the rules themselves get thrown out the window. This is where the entire map gets redrawn. It's the process of making something that was previously unthinkable suddenly completely possible by changing the very structure of how we think. This is the deepest, most shocking kind of creativity there is.
Okay, this is a really elegant framework, right? But does it actually hold up in the real world? Let's put it to the test. Let's try mapping some of history's greatest breakthroughs onto these three roads. This is where the theory gets real. Just look at this. Johannes Gutenberg didn't invent the wine press, and he didn't invent metal type, but he forged a world-changing combination of the two. That is pure combinational creativity. Then you have Marie Curie. She didn't invent physics, but she meticulously explored its conceptual space, its map, and that led her to discover that radioactivity was an atomic property. What a stunning piece of exploratory work. And CRISPR? That was pure transformational genius. It created a whole new rulebook for biology, making gene editing, once basically science fiction, a real practical tool. So the cool thing is, this isn't just a way to look back at history. It's actually a practical guide. We can use this framework to intentionally build our own capacity for breakthrough thinking. Let's turn all this theory into something we can actually do. And that's the big question for all of us, right? How do we get beyond just doing what we already know how to do and start generating ideas that are genuinely new, surprising, and valuable in our own lives? One really powerful habit is to create what you could call dual mode work blocks. You need to dedicate focused time to exploit mode. That's where you're getting things done, mastering your craft inside the current rules. But you also have to carve out separate, sacred time for explore/transform mode. This is your time for pure speculation, for asking, what if we just broke this rule? For playing with ideas from totally different fields. You need both. You need deep execution and fearless exploration.
Look, real breakthroughs take intellectual courage, but the good news is you can train it like a muscle. Try setting out reputational risk quota for yourself each year. Maybe one project that has a real chance of failing or just being misunderstood. Keep a private list of the taboo questions in your field that nobody is asking. Take a core assumption and systematically model its opposite. And, this is a big one, actively seek out smart people who disagree with you to really pressure test your ideas.
Okay, buckle up, because here's where things take a fascinating, futuristic turn. We've seen how this framework explains human genius, but what happens when we apply it to machines? This is where the pace of everything just goes into hyperdrive.
Believe it or not, the very same three roads, combinational, exploratory, and transformational, are now being explicitly programmed into AI systems. Researchers are using Bowden's map not just to understand creativity, but to literally engineer it.
And the results? They're absolutely staggering. Just look at these numbers for divergent thinking. When you create a structured system of AI agents, something like Crew AI, you see this massive jump in performance. It generates over double the number of ideas per hour. It has higher originality, and it gets a better yield of truly top-tier ideas, all for about half the cost. This is what structured, engineered creativity looks like at scale.
Just let this number sink in for a second. 1,480. An optimized multi-agent AI system can generate nearly 1,500 distinct ideas per hour. That is a rate of creative throughput that just completely dwarfs anything that was possible before. We are stepping into an era of what you might call industrial-grade creativity.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important thought. We started by trying to demystify genius, seeing it not as some kind of magic, but as a process that we can understand and even cultivate. Now we see that very same process being engineered into machines at an absolutely exponential scale. So if the architecture of genius is something we can now design and deploy, the most important question is no longer how, but what. What will we choose to create?